Welcome back to Stu's Structures. We're here for video 2 in the series of building the fire tower, so stay tuned. So welcome back. We are here to work more on the fire tower. Now that we have two sides of that put together, we have to go about seeing how to, connect those to make it a four-sided structure. I don't need to build 4 of these sides. I only need to build 2. Now we'll start connecting those and getting some stairs on the inside of it. And we'll start looking at how we're going to put together the top for this building too. So let's just jump into this and see how far we can get in this week's video. Now this is the way we left the sides in last week's video. We had both the sides, pretty well put together. The cross bracing and the extra braces were added to that second side of that as well. So now we're going to come back and start putting those two sides and connect them together. So on those corner main uprights to the building, there were several plates on the other side, and we have to duplicate those plates as we come around the corner to make this other side. And I cleaned out where all these angles came down and met that side wall so I could get the plates to slide down in there. So I come back and glue those plates down in the angle between those braces and the side piece of that angle. And I do that on both of these two pieces of sides and get all those plates in place. Now we can start connecting the cross members to connect these and turn them into a four-sided structure. So, I just lay these on my board and I put some glue in there, and I'm just doing the top and bottom brace to begin with because all these are different lengths and I want to individually measure every single length. So I just do the bottom and top one, and I come back and I'm putting weights on these so that I don't get something that's a little cattywampus. I want everything to be pretty square. So as I'm gluing all these uprights and cross members in place, I just, go one by one up both sides of it, and now we have a four-sided structure. And now we're going to continue on just the same as we did with the other two first sides. We come back and we put this first plate in the middle of each of those, long straight pieces we just put in. And we come back and we're going to start adding angles into those now that we have that plate in place on all of these. And about now I'm starting to think about, okay, we've got stairs and stuff to put in the middle of this too, so how far do I want to go with this? And I went ahead and put this whole side clear up through the structure of angles on this one side. I came back and put the other side in. And I started working on this next side of that, putting all those angles in place, and I just decided, I'm going to go ahead and just do this one side for now and leave some open area for me to get in here with tweezers and add the guts to this building. So now I have to figure out how the stairs are going to be in these. And I'll show you how I get these measurements, but that top landing in the picture was outside of the frame of the structure, but I want to keep it on the inside. So I came through and figured out there's I-beams that have to cross these, the main cross members in the structure, to hold up the stairs. So, I want these to be 2 sets of stairs wide because one's coming up and one's going down from each of these landings. So I want my cross members to cross this at places where those landings would be. So I just came back and off the center of the very top, because I know where the landing is going to go up into the structure at the top, I just come down, vertically, exactly horizontal or parallel to the center line of the building, and I marked all those marks at the widths that I wanted them. And we'll go more into why the widths are the way they are later. And I get out my smallest I-beam stuff, and I'm going to start at the top and kind of work my way down with some of this. And the top, it goes out I decided to go 4 feet instead of 3 foot for the walkways. So this main bracing at the top will go out beyond that 4 foot. So I put those top braces in place. And I come through and mark the center and start marking where the stair or the supports for the landings of the stairs will be. And then once I have those marks in place, I come back, and to each one of those cross members, I'm going to add these two I-beams between them that will support all the landings for the stairs going up through the building. And I do that on every floor. And remember, this is parallel with the center line of the structure, not the outside wall. And there's two of these cross members on every one of those braces. And that's where the landings will come up to as we go up through the building up to the top then. Now, to figure out how wide and the measurements on this, I went through, and I don't have enough pre-made stairs for this, but I found this old, evergreen styrene. It's a stairway kit. And I think one of these real long sections of this will probably be enough to do all of my stairs. So, it has two side members, then it has all the steps individually, and you have to glue all these into place. And it has little slots that they slide down into. So I just go up through the parallel of those and put several in place over the length to kind of hold it in place, and come through one by one and just start putting all the rest of the stairs in. So now I have my stair. And basically these are 3 foot wide. So the landings coming up will have to be just a hair over 3 foot for where they meet. I went through all my handrails on these, from those leftover from another project that I did. And I said, all right, well, if I cut these sections out of it, this is just a hair over 6 foot. So a stair coming up to this and a stair going down from this would be plenty long enough. And since these are pre-made, I decided, well, the landings will be this wide. And that's how I got basically the measurements for all those cross members that I put in the building. Now the other parts of all those landings are going to be an angle that holds the whole bottom of this together. And basically this will be around 4 sides of this. So I cut 2 long ones for the exposed side and 1 for that long side, and then I'm going to glue these together. And to begin with, I go ahead and glue the one that's on that back plate, because I want to figure out, I don't have open grate for this, so I think I'm going to use wood and create boards for board landings. So I went through all my miscellaneous wood scraps, and I found this piece here, which is, just about the same thickness as that inside of that angle iron. So I'm going to use this and cut boards, or make it look like boards that are cut for down in each of those landings, and use the same wood for the floor in the building up above as well. So what I did was just come back and cut these lengths to the size of the handrails, the side pieces and the back piece. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 5 of these and make 5 of these platforms. Then I just take I put a blade backwards in my X-Acto handle and use a straight edge, and I just use that blunt end of that to slice the wood to make it look like there were boards in that. And then, I go ahead and glue the angle and the wood onto that handrail. And, the first one I did, I kind of messed up. So I decided, okay, the best thing to do actually is to cut all these angles and mount them on all the wood platforms, and then add the handrails to them after that. So I went ahead and cut, the rest of the platforms and all the angles, and drug the boards, reliefs in the top of those, and then I come back and I add all those angles to the front and the back of all those platforms. And then that gives me, the wood wants to buckle when you put when you scribe those lines in it, but by putting this angle in there and gluing it, it brings that straight. And then I add all the back handrails onto all of these and let the glue set up for a while, and then I come back and start adding ends, just one end at a time with the weight against the other end to kind of hold them in place while they dry. And once one end's on, then I can come back and glue the other end on. And then once both ends are on there, it's time to do some painting before I add them onto the building. Now, I just decided to go outside and just rattle can everything silver to begin with. And then it's just easier to do this and come back and paint the boards black afterwards than it is to try to, you know, paint the wood first and come back and do all the silver by hand or something later on. So that's what I did, and just got all these with a basic coat of, you know, paint on all this. Now, you know, the main part of the structure is to this point, and we can start adding in, you know, landings and stairs at this point. So, you know, by that drawing I showed earlier on how I figured out where I wanted each of these to be, I put these I-beams in place. So I come back in and glue one in. And the stairs you saw pre-made earlier to this point, and I went ahead and painted them silver. So now all I got to do is figure out my lengths, and I'm just going to hold this in place and cut some of these. And you know, the first one, I had glued that platform down in the wrong place, so I kind of took it loose and came back and glued the stairs onto it later, onto the second platform, and then came back and added that up above that. And it, you know, coming back and looking at these after I do a couple of these, you know, I like the looks of them inside this. I think they're going to look really good, and I'm going to have to come back and touch some silver paint. But after doing this, I realized, well, you know, all of my stairs are going to be 12 treads. And they're all the same because it's all 10-foot floors, you know, in between each of these. So I can go ahead and make all the stairs. So I cut these, and then I glue on some styrene to either end of that to be able to get a good glue adhesion onto the platforms at that point. Now the very bottom one, you know, it comes down to the ground and doesn't mount to a platform. So I found this real thick styrene, and what I'm going to do is basically just cut a pad that I'm going to paint like concrete later on and glue it to the bottom of the very bottom one where it meets the ground to make it look like it's landing down on concrete. And you know, after I add that one on, I come back and add, you know, another one up above that second one, and you know, I'm on my way up from here. You know, there's just gluing them in piece by piece, and I'm having to manipulate them just a little bit. It's not perfect fits, but you know, I can make it fit, and it'll look all right when I'm all said and done, so it's fine by me. Now the top, you know, I had put this one piece in for where the stairs come up, but I had made this double wide, and there's only one stair coming up into this, and there's nothing else going on up from here. So I've got to come back and add this I-beam to that just to make it one stair wide at the top here. So once I paint that silver and come back and glue that on, then, you know, basically that's where the stair will come up into the landing of the building. And basically that's as far as I need to go with that. So, you know, we've got this last set of stairs here that we need to put in place that come up to the room from that last stairway. So I go ahead and build another 12 tread stair and put the styrene on both ends so I can glue it into place like I need to. But up on top, there's really nothing to glue it to. So I'm going to come through and make this extra brace that will glue between the two I-beams, and then the face of the stairs will glue to the down part of this angle here. So I paint that silver, then come back and glue it onto the stair tread, and I've got my stairs then basically ready to glue into the building. So once I come back and glue those in, and you know, here again, the further up with this stairway they go, the more I've got to kind of manipulate the plastic a little bit, but I finally get this glued into place. Now the next thing I'm going to start working on is the floor for the whole top of the building. And basically I just turned the whole structure upside down on this big piece of balsa wood to make sure I didn't undercut it. And I measured everything and cut a perfectly square top as a floor for this. Now I want there to be, you know, the look of boards on this, so once again I take my backwards knife and a straight edge and just scribe boards into the surface of this piece of balsa wood. And it does cause it to, you know, want to arch and buckle a little bit. Now I'm going to wrap the whole outside of this with angle iron. So I go through and start cutting my pieces for this, and you know, I kind of got ahead of myself on this the way I do a lot of times, and I glued this piece on there and then decided, well, you know, I'm going to go ahead and paint this black and then add the rest of them pre-painted silver to this. And I'm just going to have to come back and paint that silver by hand later on. So I cut the other pieces of angle for this and go outside and Randall can them silver, and I'm just coming through and one by one just, you know, gluing those with Tester's glue onto the edge of this so that there's a steel outer edge on all this, and that gives me something later on to put the stanchions on for the handrail that'll go around the outside of this platform. And then once all those are on there, I have the basic platform itself put together. Now there's an opening that will need to be cut into this where the stairs come up from down below, and basically I just once again turn the structure upside down on that and then take my pencil and draw between the I-beams and where that stair is at the top and just put marks on my board as to where the stair will go. Now there's other supports underneath of this, so I'm also marking 2 foot on centers, and I'm going to cut, you know, you saw in that last picture there the strips that I'm going to use to add to the bottom of this for framing as well. And basically they're just 15 by 60, you know, styrene strips that I took outside and painted silver. I just cut them a little long to begin with. And here's that same picture again. But basically, you know, I went ahead and played with one and just glued one into place, and then finished my marking on the board as to the front and back of the landing. And you know, I think these will look good on top of all those I-beams for supports. But now, you know, I don't want to go on with those till I get this opening cut in this. So I just come back and using my marks, I cut all the openings, and I just find 4 pieces of scrap angle, and I'm going to go ahead and line the inside of this with angle. Then that gives me something to glue stanchions on, you know, the couple of sides. There'll be the wall of the building on 2 sides of this, but the other side will need stanchions, so it gives me something to glue stanchions on. And I'll have to come back and paint that silver later on. But basically, that's where we're going to leave it in this video. And you know that most of the frame at the bottom is pretty much done, so we've got just a little ways to go, and you know, maybe we can do this in one more video. I don't know. We'll give it a go and see. So there you have the second week in videos of building this fire tower. You know, it's coming along really nicely. Some of the stairs and stuff, you know, if you look up close with a microscope, you're going to see that everything isn't perfectly aligned, and a couple of things are a little cattywampus, I guess maybe I'll call them. But you know, you really have to look for it. I'm okay with it the way it is. You know, as a whole, the structure looks really nice. I need to tone it down with some flat, you know, overspray or something. It's just a little too shiny. I mean, back in the early days of, you know, the steam era that I model, a lot of these would have been fairly new, so they might not have been as rusted as a lot of the later pictures you can see of the fire towers. But anyway, we're coming along. You know, we still have some work to do, you know, and build that whole top on this yet. And, you know, handrails, which are going to be a little tedious getting in there to build. But I knew if I pre-built them, you know, as tight as the stairs were in there, I was either going to break them or they weren't going to work the way I was going to build them. So I didn't have a whole lot of choice. I mean, I could have made the stairwells the openings a little bit wider than I did with the steel I-beams and made it a little easier, but you know, in the pictures they were tight like this. That's just how they were. So you know, I'm just, instead of using an artist license, I'm making things hard on myself. And we still have some of those angle braces and stuff still to do on the outside of the main structure yet, because remember, I left some of those off to be able to get in there and do these stairs and make them a little easier to work with. So I guess we'll start with the handrails and then move to those braces secondly. And maybe in the meantime, while I've got glue and paint and stuff drying on that, then we can start working on the top as well. And we'll see. I don't know if I can get it done in a third video or whether we go on to a fourth one. I'd like to think we can get it done in the next video, but every time I think that in my head, it never works out. So we'll see how far we get in the next video. In any case, thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. I do appreciate it. Share this with other people out there in the hobby. You know, I am getting quite a few subscribers here and there, and I do appreciate you subscribing to my channel. And, you know, go back and look through some of my older videos. There's a lot of good material back there with gantry cranes, and there's just small projects if you like one or 2 day projects like billboards or little milk stops or, you know, trackside shanties or fireboxes, or there's tons of things there that you can make as small scratch building projects if you just want to get into something minor to get started in scratch building and try your hand at it. And that's what this is all about. I'm hoping I'm teaching you some skills. You know, in many of the videos I'll laugh at myself and say, maybe I'm teaching you how not to do things, which that's okay too. You know, a lot of people do things differently. Some things work for people and don't work for others, and they find a better way. And if you find better ways, let me know. You know, sometimes some of them may have been things I've already tried, and, you know, it's all about experimentation with a lot of scratch building. So anyway, get out some materials, scratch build something, and happy model railroading.